Hey, all you VIP kid teachers out there. I wanted to do a quick video today about active listening. Now, active listening is actually an art form. It is not natural for us to always be on the pause, right? We tend to want to interact and talk. And so we discuss and we go back and forth. But when we're listening to a new student to ESL, we often have to practice what's called active listening. So our students will be reading a very long text to us, or even maybe just a sentence, and they are struggling or having a difficult time. And we have to actually pull ourselves back from interjecting and correcting. And that is not always easy. So for me, this is something I've been practicing in my classroom. I teach a lot of level 3, 4, 5, and 6 students. So when I'm teaching them, they're doing an awful lot of reading at that point. As they're reading, I have to practice holding myself back from constantly correcting every single word. I need to pause and let them finish the section. What I often do is underline the things that they may have not said well that I can go back to and correct. Now, my regular students know what I'm doing and they've caught on. So sometimes they'll stop and go back and correct themselves. But often I will just encourage them to go ahead and finish, and then we'll go back and work on some of those words together. So, a good way to practice active listening is by simply waiting and allowing them to finish the text. The second thing you can do is just give them some positive interaction with your body and not your words. If you use words, sometimes you'll cause them to freeze up or to pause or to be afraid to make a mistake. So if you can give them some active engagement, that often will help the student and encourage them to continue. So some ways that we actively engage are a nod. We use a nod. So when my student is reading a long text to me today, I will just and smile. I'll nod and smile. And sometimes I go, and if they're really struggling and they get it and they struggle for a word and then they self-correct, I'll go, I'll give them the yes, yes, good job. Another thing that you can do is a simple sound. Now, Chinese people often make what's called affirming sounds, and they'll go mm, when they're maybe correcting, or they'll go when they're in agreement. So often when they're listening, they'll go mm, mm, mm. And so these students are used to those prompts. They're used to hearing those sounds from their teachers. For instance, when a Chinese teacher is listening to a student read, she'll go or and that's a way of saying like oh. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to pause them or stop them. We may just want to give them the positive version, which is the kind of sound. Now, I like to go, ooh, good, good, mm. And they'll see that and they know that this is a positive affirmation. So that's something that you can do that kind of connects to their culture. The other thing you can do is just smile a lot, because sometimes the student is reading and you may notice that they're glancing at you while they're reading. It's because they're looking for your approval. They're looking to see, did I do it right? Did I do it right? So if you can just put a smile on your face and then a nod, that encourages them to keep going. And that's something important for us as teachers that we do. The other thing that I do is I try very hard not to underline a lot while they're reading, because after a while, all they see is red and then it just kind of goes, they get deflated or they get frustrated. So if I notice that my student is catching on to a lot of red lines, sometimes I just put a little dot, or I simply just have my pen here and I'll just jot the first few letters of a word on my whiteboard that's on my desk so they can't see. And so I'm literally sitting here just kind of doing this. and I have the words and I can go back to them and say, okay, now let's look at this word. And it keeps them from feeling deflated because they see all these red lines on the screen and they think I failed, right? And who wants to feel that way? So active listening is a very important part of an ESL teacher. The very last thing that I want to say is this: your body language. So, when you have a student in your classroom that's maybe difficult, maybe they're difficult, or maybe they're struggling a lot, your body language says a lot. Maybe your words aren't even enough, but maybe your body language and the sometimes I even do this. But the other thing I really think is important is to just look right at them. So it's easy for me to want to look over at their feed, to look at the student feed. But I do my best when my students are reading to just look at them. Mm, good, good. Yes. Excellent, excellent. All right. So those are ways that we can affirm our students by using active listening. And I think it's a great tool for us in the classroom. Just my tip for today: after 12 classes of level 5, I'm sorry, 11 level 5 today and 1 level 4. I did a lot of active listening today. Have a great day.